Welcome in, everyone. Truckers for Truckers, Real Talk by Road Drivers. Tonight, we're going to talk about the manipulation all over the trucking industry, what it stands for, uh, how it's created, so forth. The different type of manipulations throughout the transportation industry. Uh, Ignacio, you want to start us off with our routine?
Yeah, Heavenly Father, today we're asking for you to have this live so we can share information for common good, not mongering, not fear, but also the truth. Let it be the truth so we can use it to educate the trucking industry the best way we can as we ourselves continue to learn. Father, today we're asking you to protect our work, our families, ourselves, Father. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right. So the reason why I wanted to cover this topic is because a lot of drivers don't know they they don't know, how do I put this? They don't know the types of manipulation throughout the whole transportation industry. I mean, it comes from brokers, it comes from carriers, it comes from uh, shippers, receivers. It's across the whole industry. Even factoring companies manipulate. Um, they'll manipulate their contracts. They'll do a lot of different things. Um, so you want to start us off, or you want Ignacio, Mitchell? Let's go with
Uh,
Mitchell since he's
well,
hardly ever on.
yeah,
It's
go
just
ahead, man.
it just has a lot to do with the different types of manipulation you see, especially if you're getting your loads from the load board. You're going to see certain location-based tactics. You're going to see um, different layouts as far as what kind of stops they have. Multi-pick, multi-drop. You're going to see other things that they're trying to pack like 3 loads into one rate. I think we saw that out in Baltimore. There was 1 load on the board, and then literally in the comments it admitted that it was actually 3 different loads they wanted done back to back. They were trying to group it into one rate. And when you break that rate up, you'd be at a complete loss. So, and it's funny because the rates that they're offering are like right at that threshold of minimal profitability and losing money. And they do that on purpose.
Well, here's the other thing to that point is they the low boards don't allow multiple stops to be listed on the description side, and that's a problem because the low boards actually show the miles, right? And if you got the right subscription, it'll even show what that lane is actually paying. So it manipulates the mileage pay. So when you're adding on drops or even adding loads into one, like Mitchell said, one was actually putting 3 loads all onto one. That adds on miles, which is going to change that mileage pay.
Yeah,
Don't
one
realize
thing.
it, and they don't calculate it out because they just want to float the load. They're going by the
One,
information that was actually on the load board instead of asking the brokers, which I agree they should be asking the brokers when they contact them. Okay, but at the same time, they're just trying to get moving.
It's
but still,
important
I mean,
for
So
any load that you get off the load board, whether it be a load board or if you got a direct contact with a trucking company, you as the driver, if you're the one calling them getting that load, you still there's questions you need to ask. You just don't assume, and then wait till later and find out after you accepted the load. Oh, well, it's got 3 stops. There's questions that people need to ask in the beginning, and they don't.
absolutely. It's very important because, like Mitch is saying, there's a lot of brokers that if you don't ask, they won't tell you. Uh, I was on a live yesterday with some brothers and sisters, and one of the things that we can agree upon is manipulation here, like we're talking about. This is what this topic is. Uh, in flatbed, for example, I did flatbed 15 years, and then I did reefer for 14 years, and then I went back into flatbed. And in 14 years, what changed as far as flatbed was a lot of the ridiculous tarping. And if you're not careful, you have brokers having you damage your tarps. Tarps are about $1,000, if not more. And if they want you to tarp rocks, sharp edges, and machinery, I mean, 14 years of tarping gives you a lot of experience to have enough equipment to protect your tarp. But unfortunately, wear and tear is part of the field, right? Part of the equipment. And when you're tarping every single thing that they want you to, that's not really necessary. I didn't realize that it's part of the game or manipulation that we're talking about, because as they're paying you probably $100 or $200, they're charging their customer even more. And that is the reason why they want you to tarp all the time, because they're offering tarping supposedly to protect their product. And most of the time, if you don't think tarping is something separate from the Raycon, then you're going to get gouged, right? You're going to be shortchanged. So that's kind of a manipulation. The other thing that I did learn yesterday is the company, our representative that we were talking to, it was a third party logistic company. They told us that they don't really give their grace of 2 hours to load and unload. They get charged right away by the brokers that they're working with. They're sending these trucks over to their site. So we have gotten this idea about the 2 hour grace period, right? For them to load us, get us out of there. And then after that, we can demand detention. Well, in their case, they're being charged once that truck checks in from their appointment time. So that's another area where we must always demand detention, and we always gotta be aware on how much time is really given from us to the broker or from any load, in particular you as an owner operator. So there's a lot of manipulation that's going on right now. So like Mike says, we better ask those questions so we can have them in writing, because if you ask these questions and they're just over the phone, you have no proof to support your claim if it happens to be a claim. So always make sure you have it in writing. Like Mike says, ask these questions, and if you can do them through email, that's already being recorded. Now you have proof of what was said and promised and committed to. So those are part of the things that we deal with almost every time we pick up a load or deliver a load.
Another thing is too, there's a comment section down there sometimes that tells you this is 2 stops, or it might require tarping or something like that. You also got to read the comments when you're looking at the load board, and a lot of people don't do that. And I've had this problem with Uber drivers. I'm parked in the street out in front of a business, and I tell them the color of my truck, what's on the side of the trailer, and I'm sitting there watching these people drive by because they don't read the comments. So, you as an individual taking that load, you got to make sure, you got to look at all this stuff. You got to not only where it's going, where it's picking up, how much it's paying, what the weight is. You got to read the comments and find out. And if there's no comments, then you need to ask questions. And, it's too many people don't want to do their due diligence, and then they want to blame their screw ups on other people. So, you got to do your due diligence on a load. You can't take anything at face value.
Right.
Right. Okay. I want to mention something that, about a year and a half ago, brokers started pushing that detention didn't start till after 3 hours. It's always been a 2-hour industry standard since I started trucking. I heard at one point it was like when they first started doing the detention and layover, it started at 1 hour. So they manipulate that side too. And like Ignacio said, some of the contracts actually do start right when the truck checks in, when the driver checks in. Contracts that I've seen, they actually start, an hour after check-in. When they got an appointment time, it's an hour. Even if it's a, first come, first serve, lowest I've seen is 2 hours where detention starts after check-in. So these brokers just want to gouge on the drivers, and it's getting ridiculous. They're taking advantage of people. They're trying to change how everything runs by their standards. We need to start, fighting back, coming together and working together to agree to disagree on issues. Start educating one another. It just like we're doing right now. Like we've said, a lot of drivers don't know what to look for on the load board, what to ask, or anything like that, and that's what we're trying to do right now. Not only that, another manipulation tactic that I've seen recently is me and Mitchell was actually in Montana a few weeks ago, and they wanted to post a load up in Butte, Montana for a reefer load that was actually picking up in eastern Idaho. We've seen a couple of different loads like that.
Right. And Idaho is a strong freight area. So what does that tell you? They're rejecting the rates of the local carriers and trying to undercut it by preying upon drivers that are in an area that has a lack of good freight. So they're trying to get a driver or an owner operator from a poor freight area to take a loss deadhead to an area that has good freight, but at the same time they're going to undercut them on the rate just because they're desperate for a load, because they don't want to accept the rates of the local carriers or the carriers that are in that good freight area. They want to suppress that cost. So they're manipulating the rate from the locals or those that are in that good area, so they can then further manipulate it with a bad freight area that actually needs that extra revenue because of the excessive deadhead. but they undercut him again because of that. So we saw that out in Montana, and you see that in other areas where you make the call and it says that somewhere you're picking up is only 20 miles away from you. Come to find out it's 120 miles. Or we've seen it where both the pick and the drop are nowhere near where they had it listed. So they can make the rate look like, they chop both ends of it so that way they take an 800-mile run, make it look like a 550-mile run, so that way the rate looks higher to get you to call in and bid on it. So it's a manipulation tactic. Or what did we just have out in Maryland, where we finally got a decent rate, but then we were manipulated again to not be able to even get the load because we use an ELD that doesn't integrate with highway. So Chris knows more about that issue.
Yeah, that stuff on the load boards where it says it's picking up in, we'll just say, for example, Ontario, California, but they'll post it and it's actually picking up in downtown LA 50 miles away, or Bakersfield, which is up over the mountain. That stuff happens a lot. They do that a lot on these loads.
Right,
Yeah.
because they're trying to make the rate look fat when it's not.
Or even so, just like Mike said, it would actually pick up in Los Angeles when you actually call on it, and they're just trying to hide the fact to get people to call in because no one wants to go down to freaking LA. No one wants to deal with the fucking traffic out there and the streets. The streets are small. It's fucking tight as hell. No one wants to deal with it. So they post it up in the different area just to get people to call in. And we do have our special guest joining us. He's in the backstage. And before I bring him up, let me touch on what Mitchell was talking about with the ELD and highway. So highway requires, they don't actually require, but the brokers can actually require to access your ELD, where they have access to your ELD for the tracking. But at the same time, what we came to find out is they're getting access to the whole information, all of the carrier information, and there's some private information on there. So why do they need access to that? And
it's just
not only
another way
that,
to get more control.
They can see everything where you're at any time given that they want. They can even look at the driver's logs.
Yeah, they can manipulate capacity.
They cannot be able to do that. And not only that, so we ended up losing the load because I use Trucking Office ELD. Trucking Office will not allow access to their ELDs except to the admin of the carrier that has their service. And that doesn't mean that if you have the service, you're seeing other carrier logs or anything. You only see yours, what's under your company when you're an admin. So, and that's how it should be. It's protecting the information of the company. It's protecting the driver's information. Because all of that's on there. Their driver's license, their address, their phone numbers, all of it. They should not have access to that. And they're getting it because they're requiring it, and Highway is helping them do that. And the last I heard, Highway is trying to make it to where brokers can't even choose to where uh, they can override that. It's
And
rate
not only that,
manipulation.
but
They're
probably
using
just
the information. They're using the information, the geolocations, to know where the trucks are at all times. That gives them the power to determine what the rates are going to be in certain areas. That's rate manipulation.
Right.
That's rate fixing.
That violates.
That actually goes against antitrust laws.
But the question is, who's holding these forces in power? Who's holding them accountable?
Exactly, no one.
Hmm.
And Modus, the new system that DOT and the FMCSA has uh, came out with, Modus, it is tying all of that into it for the insurance companies to actually have access to it.
Yep.
They're all working together. We need to put a stop to this. They are trying to manipulate and monopolize on the industry. But let's get our special guest in. His name is Richie. Let's get him in.
Hey guys, how
How's
you
it going,
doing?
Richie?
You guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing?
Very good. Why don't you introduce yourself to everybody and let them know what you do, what position you are in the industry?
All right, so I'm Richie. I am a truck driver at the Port of New York and New Jersey. I do mostly local, but every now and again I do go regional. I go as far out as Iowa, Colorado, Montreal, Toronto, Canada. But I mostly stay local though.
Aren't
nice to
you
meet
putting
you,
an
Richie.
association or a union together, Richie?
Well, it would be ideal if we could form a union of drayage truckers across all the ports in America, but it's a lot harder than what it sounds. The laws are designed against us as workers. A lot of these drivers are being misclassified as independent contractors, and the law does not permit independent contractors to organize unless they can prove that they're not really independent contractors, which a lot of these drivers believe they are, but they're not. I used to be a leased owner operator. I did it for 4 years, but I sold my truck and became a company driver. It's a lot better. I'm happier, less headaches, less responsibility. And I wasn't really independent in the first place to begin with. If you don't have your own authority, you're not really independent. That's the way I see it. But yeah, that's how most of the drayage industry is designed. It's designed to use these truck drivers, these leased owner operators as independent contractors, but in reality, they're employees being disguised as independent contractors. And the reason they do that is because it's just cheaper for the carriers, cheaper for them to just offset the cost, their overhead costs onto the drivers, make them pay for the insurance, bobtail insurance, make them pay for tolls and maintenance, and they don't even provide any benefits. But then they also restrict their independence too because they can't haul freight for nobody else.
How, Richie, how does the AB5 affect you guys working at the port, or maybe lease to a higher company as independent contractors per se?
Well, AB5 is a California law, so it doesn't really affect me. But over here in New Jersey, we have our own version. It's called the ABC test. and all the leaseholder operators they fail the B prong, which states that if you're doing the same line of work as the hiring entity, then you're not really independent. And in my opinion, I think AB5 is the best thing that ever happened to trucking. The best thing.
Why is that, Rich?
Because it'll properly classify the workers as employees. They deserve to have the protected rights under the FLSA. They deserve to have the benefits of being an employee because they're not really independent contractors. They're not. You know, if you own your own truck, but you lease onto a carrier, you are an employee of that carrier. You're not really independent.
So how does the company get away with that?
Well, as long as the driver doesn't say nothing about it, then there's no way for the authorities to figure it out. So, and if the company is small enough, they're not gonna raise a red flag. But the authorities might get word of it if the driver tries to apply for unemployment benefits, or they try to apply for any types of benefits. Then the authority might find out. But other than that, though, they won't find out.
One of a good sources for you if you try to organize, if you try to make a change. TMJ is one of the groups that can help you a lot in that field. I know for a fact, like myself, I worked union 12 years, and as an owner operator, I used to pull out of the port in LA. I was hauling lumber out of there for Weisenhower. Uh, and it was very easy for me because I was just going into a certain port, and they load me and got me out of there within half an hour. But I seen
Hmm.
the brothers that were pulling dry edge, right? First they had to go pick up a chassis, then they had to go back in line and pick up the container on the chassis that took them forever to go pick up. So it was
Yeah.
a very complicated system with like maybe 50 trucks on the same line. So it's very frustrating for them. And I known a few of them. I never worked at the port as an owner operator for drayage, but I did know a few of them. And honestly, what I saw was very, very dangerous because in order for them to make ends meet, they had to work more than 14 hours a day just for them to make enough money for the day. So that's kind of like the safety issue, right? They don't have to log in, they don't have to uh, be in compliance as far as ELDs because they don't go
Hmm.
out of the 150-mile radius. But it is very dangerous because a lot of them that have to work those many hours to make decent amount of money just to keep up with the daily bills. I think it is very dangerous, and my heart goes out to them because they're still brothers behind the wheel. And I think a lot of it has to do with ignorance, right? Like you're saying, a lot of them don't know their rights, and a lot of them don't know how to organize. So thank you for trying to bring awareness to that industry that we kind of call the bottom of the barrel, right? At least we do over here, but that's not a very good term because they're still brothers and sisters trying to make a living, and we should never think less of them. We need to educate them. We need to help them out because after all, they're just like us trying to feed their families. So thank you for what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for the shout out, man. You know what? It's really unfortunate that drayage is considered hello,
Looks like he's getting a bad signal. Oh, he's back.
hello,
You're back. Yeah.
Start over, Richie, please.
hello. You hear
Can
me?
you hear us? Yeah,
Yeah,
we hear you. Can you hear us?
Hello, you hear me? Hello.
Yeah, I think you're getting a bad signal.
We
You
can hear
gotta
you
drop
now.
out. You gotta drop and come back in.
I got a
So hopefully he's gonna leave
hello. You
out and
guys hear me?
then try to come back in to reconnect. Um, Ignacio, why
Hello,
don't
hello,
you,
hello.
continue? And I'm gonna message him in the background.
Yeah,
Hello,
okay.
hello. You guys hear me? Hello.
We can hear you. Okay. Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, I like the group here because the group here, we don't judge, we don't condemn, we don't uh tend to think others are less than
Hello, you
us.
guys hear me? Hello, hello.
We're here as brothers trying to help the whole industry as a whole for common good. So we have somebody like Richie that's trying to help a field of truckers where they're struggling. That's exactly what Billy Randall does, right? We've seen that through the history of trucking. And after all, we're all just trying to have an honest living and trying to provide for our families. So this is why this group here and the advocates are important, because we're trying to raise our voice for individuals that are getting abused and taken advantage of. So that's why I appreciate working with these fellows right here, because they have great hearts and they're trying to share what they've learned and to share the wisdom with the unfortunate ones, right? So we're trying to educate individuals what their rights are and other options that they might have that they don't know about.
All right. So hopefully he comes back in. I messaged him and told him to drop in, try to reconnect. Um, but I mean, he brought up a good point. It's how carriers manipulate owner operators, right? I mean, even company drivers are getting manipulated as well. You know, they promise them, so many miles, and the average is usually anywhere from 2,500 to 2,800 miles a week. But then you start running and you're only getting, 2,000 to 2,300, or, and every single carrier is different, right? But you always find something that was actually lied about. Every single company that I've ever ran for, I found something that they actually lied about. That needs to change, and that's why there's a that's one of the reasons why there's a high turnover in the industry, is because they just want to lie and manipulate. There's no integrity anymore.
Well, yeah, let's look at it from a company driver's perspective. Like a lot of times you're quoted a load and the miles that are on it are the practical miles, like almost like as the crow flies, instead of the miles that actually are turned by the wheels on the truck, and so then you take that, you add up all those differences, and by the end of the year, you're missing like, a couple of different paychecks worth of miles. All those little miles
Yeah,
add
it
up,
ends up
and
adding
you're
into like,
shorted again.
yeah, it ends up being you losing out on like thousands of dollars in pay. And I've even caught companies saying that they go by a practical mile, by, PC miler, but then yet it's zip code to zip code, or, from uh what's the other one? Air miles.
Yeah,
I've
air
got
mile.
companies trying to use air miles, and then even Google Map. So like Google Maps, a lot of the GPSs actually use what's called what the heck is it called? It's not practical miles. It's something else.
Yeah. And I can't remember what this off the top of my head.
But I mean, PC
Either
Miler is
way.
pretty close. PC Miler is actually the closest to what Hub Miles is. About the closest, but none of them are accurate.
Right. So that's just one of the ways that, again, your pay rate gets manipulated. Or you end up being put on loads that have an excessive amount of time, like they'll give you a 1,200 mile load and they'll put 3 days on it instead of 2. So you're sitting around for an entire day waiting to either get loaded or get unloaded, or sometimes a combination of both. Just wasting your time that you have.
Yeah, and then they don't even want to pay detention or layover because of the appointment time. Like,
Yeah, when the very ELD that you're recording everything on is tracking your locations and everything else, but if you don't have other verifiable proof, that proof isn't good enough somehow. Even though everything you do is tracked on an ELD, you still somehow don't have enough evidence to prove you were detained, which is horseshit.
yeah,
Yeah.
and even if they don't have access to the ELD, they're having you download macro point. Eh, eh. And this is what I don't even get, because a lot of them are, even if they have access to the ELDs, they're still having drivers download their stupid tracking apps with macro or trucker tools or fork heights, whatever. Like, what's the point? And then they want to freaking still call the driver.
Absolutely. One of the biggest things, right, from what we've seen even with the guests here, is that a lot of us think, well, that's the port. It's not going to affect me. Those are locals. They're not going to affect me. You know what? That is the biggest myth ever. Why am I saying this? Because when when that event of the port of LA, right, when we had uh longshoremen not showing up to work, and during the coronavirus, not many employees were showing up, shipments got backed up, and we all of a sudden we had 6, 8, 10, 12, 15 ships waiting to be unloaded. And what happened with that was the drivers didn't have work. So when you don't have local work or you don't have port work, you're gonna get into OTR. Why? Because they need to pay the bills. They need to try something else. So eventually they will come into our market. The other one is tariffs. A lot of people might think, oh, tariffs, that's political. That is something that the government needs to fix. No, tariffs will hurt you too. Why? Because when I had a dedicated run in the Midwest, a lot of the Midwest local drivers, they didn't have product to move around. Just like the poor guys, when there's no work, they got to find a way to feed their families. So all of a sudden, they started coming to our lanes. They started competing against our rates to survive. So a lot of these truckers that are doing something else, we better help them out. We better try to support them to fix their issues so they don't come into another field, another area, and try to compete and lower the rates. So this is why it's important to stand close to each other and help each other out, because we're still truck drivers trying to feed our families.
Let's check in on Richie, make sure he's connected, right? Sorry it took so long. I didn't see you come back in.
No, yeah, I don't know what happened, guys. I received some type of text message, and all of a sudden the space just started acting freaky.
Yeah, that happens sometimes. Like if you get a phone call or a text message, it'll disconnect you from the live, and then it won't bring you back unless you drop and come back in.
All right. Well, listen, you guys are you guys all independent or are you guys leased on owner operators or company drivers?
So Mike, we the truckers, he's a company driver.
Yeah, right now we're company
Mitchell,
drivers, but I've owned trucks over the years and everything. So I've done both sides of it.
Yeah, I'm driving company man team with Chris right now, but I'm going to be
Okay.
migrating into this truck when Chris gets his, and then I'll be being an owner operator, leased onto the authority.
And me myself, I started back in the 80s as a company man, and I ended up working in the union for 12 years. And then after that, I had a good chance to get inside a truck, take over payments, and never turn back. So I've been in the game for 37 years. So we kind of have a little bit balanced experience as a whole.
and really, that there's a difference between leasing on to a company and being a having your own authority. When you have your own authority, you're definitely a independent because you're running your company. You're actually in control of it because you have to either pay a dispatcher, dispatch yourself, or and you have to do your back office or hire someone to do it. So you're in control, but at the same time, there are owner operators that are leased onto companies that are still considered independent because they allow them to actually choose their loads to where they can have access to a load board and choose their own loads, or they can use the carrier's load board to where uh, they haul their loads and still be able to negotiate. Now, when a company doesn't allow a owner operator that's leased under them, and they can only pick off of their load board or do their own, use their dispatching only, then you're not an independent because you're not negotiating, you're not choosing your loads, you're not doing anything. You're not controlling your company.
And in that note, Chris, I want to share my experience when I was doing reefer. When I was doing reefer, I wanted to take a little break from the office, right? And was driving teams with my nephew that I was training, and I leased on to a guy that was running his dad's truck. And at the same time that I was leased to him, we built the company into 19 trucks. And not only that, but me as a lease owner operator, I was able to open lanes. I was able to get direct customers. And then we hired two dispatchers that had already customers with them. So we were not having just regular dispatchers. We had dispatchers with customers with them, and that kind of increased the rates, the profits, the lanes. So everybody was winning with them. And there is differences of leases, right? When you have a place like myself, when you were invited to the table, when you were the guinea pig to open lanes, when you were given the opportunity to find new customers, those are the privilege lease agreements that you're looking for because you're involved in the project, you're involved in the company, and I think that is the greatest place you can be, growing with the company together.
Yeah, well, there's two different sides to having your own authority and being leased onto somebody. I mean, there's good and bad on both sides of it. Owner operator, where you got your own authority, you have to do all the work. You have to chase your money. You have to worry about getting paid. If we're leased onto a company, yeah, they got a lot of control over you. But if the company doesn't get paid on that load that you just hauled, that's their problem. So it's got good and bad things, either way you go.
Absolutely. And on that note, what Mike said, you got to be aware of those two sides. For example, uh, Mike said a good point. If you are short on finances, that company that you're leased on, they might be able to help you out, but they might not. You're basically on your own, right? Another thing is that if you are in a position where your truck breaks down and the company that you're leased to, they're not very friendly, you're out of luck. The most important side of it is like what Mike is saying is you're hold accountable for a lot of the permits and accountable for the obligations to fulfill them. So you can run qualified under all authorities. So when you are leased to somebody like that, you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to be worried about collecting your money from a factoring or a broker. That company, that's the company's headache. When you break down whatever, the company needs to figure out how to repower that load, even though you're gonna have some of the pain in it. So that to me was a very good experience because I wanted to rest. So all I had to worry about is my pickup, my delivery, and then the process from point A and B. And I get a check every week. So that is the good side about it, Mike. That's a very good point.
So we do have a few comments over off of YouTube. Dromy, I don't know what this one's about. How about Steve Stoney shared that screenshot? I don't know what that's about. And then Trucking Songs, you block everyone and wonder why nobody is listening. People are listening for one. And not only that, the only people that I've got blocked off of this live is Sage and Narc. Because all they want to do is cause chaos. They've been after me for freaking 2.5 years now. And trying to derail me, try to discredit me. So why wouldn't I block them? They try to go against everything that I do, what we are trying to build here at ATC. So why should I even give them a voice?
Absolutely. Uh, so what else can we talk about as far as manipulation? Uh, I think the industry itself, as far as training, in a way, is kind of manipulated because just like what we're talking about here, when you go to school, you're thinking you're being educated, being prepared, but you know what? Schools are just good to help you get your driver's license. Unfortunately, they don't teach you how to chain up. They don't teach you how to move your axles. They don't teach you how to negotiate on a company, right? Where there's, like Chris was saying, bad ads, bad promises. So they don't teach you about prospecting for a first job. And when you're out there in the world with no education, with no guidance, you might end up in a bad situation in your first job. So me, for example, I found many drivers out on the road, and I gave a ride to a few of them where they say, you know what? They promised me they were going to bring me home in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and it's been 3 months and I haven't gone home. Can you please give me a ride because I got off the truck? This is at a truck stop. So be careful out there, because the industry, like these brothers are saying, it is kind of manipulated, and you gotta educate yourself and do your due diligence, like Micah said, ask questions. And this is why we're up here to share our experiences and try to pass it on, so you don't get caught in a lie and be thinking that trucking is a nightmare. You have to get educated. You have to be prepared. And those trucking companies are not going to be your friends to do this. So I'm glad that whoever's listening, the ones that have open ears, look, I'm 58 years old and I'm still listening. I'm still asking questions. So we don't stop growing. Innovation is a big thing, right? Technology is a big thing. Laws and regulations are a big thing. So we have to stay updated ourselves. So I don't understand why new drivers come on here and they don't want to listen to anyone. We better listen, because if we're still listening, we don't understand why you guys shouldn't.
Yep. You know, that's, I had to go to truck driving school before I could get a job driving. So we was at a truck stop outside of Abilene eating dinner, and we came out back out to our truck. There was 4 of us in there, and we were standing there next to this flatbed, and the instructor, which was an old truck driver, he was telling us some things, and the man that drove that flatbed come out there, and he was talking to us, you know, and everything, and he's like, I'm gonna tell you guys, you youngsters, one thing. I've been driving. I think he said he'd been driving for 30 some years at the time. He said the day you think you know it all is the day you need to hang them keys up at your front door and go get a job at 7-Eleven as a cashier or sling burgers at McDonald's, because the day you think you know it all is the day you're going to kill somebody.
Absolutely.
He said,
And that's a very
he said no matter how
and
long you've
true
been out here,
statement.
you can learn stuff from the new guys. You can learn stuff from old guys. You can learn stuff from everybody. You just have to open up your mind and accept.
Well, we all have a different experience in trucking.
Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I used to be young, right? And I used to think, oh wow, this older guys, they're grouchy, they're not friendly, they're not sugarcoating things, you know. But now that I'm older, it seems like you just don't want to waste your time. You don't want to plant seeds on concrete. If you're going to invest your time, you invest your time with people that are listening, people that are willing to learn. And that's why we kind of sometimes look like we're grouchy, like we're mean. But you know what? We care. We really care. And that's what we're out here trying to educate individuals that are listening. But you know, think about this. If every time, every 2 years, we have to take a medical, and we have to pass because that's our requirement. If we have successfully done it for so many decades, something is good in our behalf, right? We're taking care of ourselves. We're doing our due diligence to watch what we eat. We're trying to exercise because we want to stay fit. Now, if you also think about how many events we have missed, anniversaries, birthdays, graduations, man, a lot of us kind of raised our kids inside the truck. So we missed out on a lot of quality time. That experience tells you that we have thick skin, that we have passed the test. So don't ever think that experience doesn't matter. It does matter because we found a way to succeed. We found a way to make it throughout the years. So that's something that you're going to be tested on. So that's why it's good to recognize if somebody's been successful in business as a truck driver and have a lot of experience, you got to ask them why. What did you do when this happened? How did you keep your marriage strong? How did you survive, or how did you manage being alone for so many days in the cubicle? Those are valid questions that for years I've shared with some the drivers that had a hard time in these issues. So experience does matter. I think when I went to a mechanic and he finished fixing my issue in like 30 minutes, something that a few mechanics couldn't do. And he was charging me. I thought it was a lot. And I asked him, hey, why are you charging me, more than just half an hour of your labor? You know what he said? He said, I don't get paid for what I do. I get paid for what I know. And that was very powerful in his part. I just smiled and paid him because he did help me, and I had already wasted money elsewhere. So what you know does matter and does have price, and sometimes doesn't even have value. Wisdom is very, very valuable. So that's why we continue to listen. We continue to share what we know, and there's only a few that have open ear to listen.
And we're coming up on the hour, so I also wanted to put out there, me and Mitchell, Ignacio's going to try to make it. Mike's going to try to make it out to the 10-4 DC rally. We're going to have a booth for ATC. We're going to be passing out some stickers, flyers, as well as some keychains. And I mean, if people want to join ATC and support ATC, we're going to be giving out T-shirts for them doing that. And then if they want to, donate to American Trucking or American Transportation Co-op, then they get a hat as well. And these hats are going to be, the top of the line baseball caps. What are they called? Richardson hat. So they make a donation to the, ATC, they get a hat. They sign up for ATC as a member, they get a T-shirt.
And let's talk about what those donations go to help. So one of the core things, a few of the different core things really, that ATC is about education, right? What we're doing here in this live stream, we're educating others about our experiences, what we've learned, and sharing that with others. So that way, hopefully, there's somebody that's listening that can avoid some mistakes or be aware of some things so they don't have to have those hardship type experiences, and it can make their career easier. Education is a big part of it, and we want to be able to take what we get in and invest that into building better infrastructure for educational purposes at ATC for drivers, owner operators, independents, and also for the public support. A big thing that we also focus on is infrastructure. A lot of these hard experiences we talk about, or have experiences with all this rate manipulation and things, you have to look at it as core issue. All these different things that have power over our experience in trucking come from and are rooted in infrastructure and who controls the infrastructure of trucking. If we want to truly make change in this industry, we have to invest in ourselves and invest in innovative infrastructure, ways that we can utilize technology and build technology and build different systems for managing freight, managing the education, managing the communication, and executing the strategies that we want to change our overall job economy going forward. We also have to have a platform built which costs money. And that platform will allow us to be able to speak more freely, organize properly, so we can handle these issues and develop alternative infrastructure to change the outcome in the future, and so we can properly organize against hopefully being replaced by the autonomous. All of this rests on, and really the real race of our industry is the race of coming together in a meaningful way, having supportive infrastructure that's an alternative and a mirror to the power structures that are in play now, working to our detriment. It's obvious they don't want the company drivers, the small businesses in trucking, the owner operators, independents, obviously, they don't really want us being successful. They want to maintain corporate control over trucking and further monopolize the industry. And when you look at their influence and power through ATA, TIA, IANA, every single one of them, you see their stamps across all of the infrastructure at play when it comes to load boards, when it comes to TMS systems. You have Highway and Modus. Well, and you look at those systems. Well, the Modus system was created through FMCSA. Well, where does the conflict of interest lie there? A lot of people who are in FMCSA are former or current ATA members or TIA members. So they're the ones influencing the governing control and the regulations and further manipulating things so that way they can completely monopolize the industry, especially as things move forward to the autonomous trucks, because the big corporates are the ones that are going to want to control that entire market once they, or if they, successfully push out all the small businesses. So they can increase that pressure, making it hard for driver retention in the small companies, making it hard to make a profit at the small companies. They have a lot of control over every moving piece when it comes to the transportation, the supply chain throughout the country. So if we don't build an alternative infrastructure to that mirrors that same power to either alter or abolish, kind of like in our founding documents, right? We don't take responsibility for it and continue to acquiesce about it, we're doomed to fall victim to it.
Well said. Just on the side note, has nothing to do with logistics or manipulation. I just wanted to acknowledge the sign below us, right, for the Truckers Final Mile. This is a nonprofit organization that is for us truckers. It's from a trucker for truckers. Robert over at the last Driver's Final Mile. This is a man that has dedicated many years on making sure a driver like ourselves make it home. So if you have a little change on the side that you can go and donate to Robert and Truckers Final Mile, go and do so, because we don't know the time and the place. We might be far away from our family. We might be in a place where we don't have the finances in order. And Robert has a generous heart, and he has done over 500, I believe. And I worked with him before, so I will continue to mention him and his cause, his generosity. So if you are listening, and if you have some money to throw his way, it doesn't matter how much. It's just really the support. So he doesn't feel like he's alone doing this, because we are an industry of many. And sometimes one at a time might be needing the services. So make sure you take a look at his page. And if you have some funds to go and donate to his cause, go ahead. He's very transparent. He does this year round. And unfortunately, these things just happen unexpectedly. So go ahead and check him out. And if you can support him, go ahead and do so. Thank you.
Yeah, Robert, the individual that runs Truckers Final Mile is a truck driver. So he doesn't do the transportation, but he facilitates the process and helps you with the process of getting your loved one that passed away out on the road back home, because it cost, $3, $4, $5,000 to cross multiple state lines. You got to deal with funeral homes. You got to deal with transportation people, airlines, and all these have to be certain individuals that are qualified to deal with human remains. Not anybody can do this stuff. And he's been doing this, I believe, about 14 years. He's gotten over 800 drivers back home to their families. And it's something is really, really needed out here in this industry, because if you don't know what to do, it's going to take you a long time, you know, to get your loved one home. It's not something that happens overnight. So, you know, and everything that he does, you know, he gets a phone call. He hates to tell a person, oh, man, I can't do it. I don't have the funds. You know, that eats the man up inside. It's really tough for him to do that. And $5 from people, every $5 counts. Puts him one step further to helping another driver and another driver and another driver. So, you know, please donate to him. He's done a
You
lot
think
of good
about the
for this
power.
industry.
You think about the power. If you donated $1 for every week of the year, that's $52 a year. If every driver was to do that, we would support our own infrastructure through Truckers Final Mile to make sure every driver gets home should the worst happen to them out on the road. It would be enough to make sure that it's always taken care of. And that's the biggest thing. We can't depend on the government whatsoever to take care of our problems. We have to stop acquiescing and take care of our own situation in an effective way, in a strategic way that solves the issue. The government's not going to come to any of our rescue. Anybody that's been around this industry long enough knows that. Robert Palm made a really good point. I made a video about it on my TikTok, that this government can't even come together to get a law passed that makes these facilities we receive and deliver to, we receive, you know, shippers and receivers, for bathroom access. We can't get the government to do that. They're not going to help solve this issue either, because it's obvious they don't care. We are chattel to be used for the purpose of society. They don't value what we really do. That's why we see the churn in the industry. You know, speaks for itself, really. So the only thing we can do is take care of the issue ourselves. And that's where it starts.
And that's why ATC was actually formed, to bring us all together, to work with one another, support one another, and start investing into each other. That's what we need to start doing. You think these big corporations are not united? That's why they have so much power. That's why they have so much control over the industry.
Absolutely.
We need to start mirroring what they are doing, and that's exactly what ATC is doing. We are mirroring what the big corporations are doing, and us as drivers, independent owner operators, even leased on owner operators, company drivers, we need to come together to gain power back and get a seat at the table. That's what ATC is about. And this goes out to the brokers, the shippers, you know, the workers at the shippers. Become a member. Get your voices heard. That's what we bring. That's what this platform right here, Truckers for Truckers, is for. Right? It's an affiliate partner of ATC. And once we get that going, we can take back control and have a seat at the table to where we're making decisions along with the big corporations to make it an even playing field.
Absolutely. And also, too, I'll invite you to check out We the Truckers, Mike and Jane. They're great people, great individuals. Go out there and visit their website. They have a lot of free information. They have a lot of events on their page. So follow We the Truckers as well. They have kind of like a consolidated place of information of activities that are going on. So go ahead and check them out as well. Mike has been generous enough, and Jane has been generous enough to be working for many years as advocates for common good. So make sure you take advantage of all of the information that they have on their webpage. We the Truckers.
And so, if anybody wants to reach out to us, contact info is right there in the banner. You know, support at atcedu.org is our email. And the business phone number is 208-410-6670. Reach out to us, talk with us. You want to come on to the show, we'll bring you on. You know, we'll listen to you. We'll get your voice heard as much as possible, you know, to our capabilities. I mean, we stream on Facebook, LinkedIn, X, and YouTube for right now. Once our website's up and going, it's going to be on there as well. Membership is free. Membership is free. Everything that gets donated, if people want to donate, goes to the cause. It goes to build the infrastructure. It goes to us going out to these truck shows and, you know, promoting what we're doing, what we're fighting against. It helps us to lobby in Congress. It helps us build the tools that we need to get us that seat at the table.
Absolutely. Mike, what is the best way? I know you guys are kind of like the hub or consolidated booth of information and kind of working with so many groups in the movement. What is the best way for them to get the information that you and Jane have generously provided? Is it just through the We the Truckers webpage?
You can go to wethetruckers.com. We have several different pages on there. We have one page with the individual advocates. We have we have a government page. We have a highway helpers page, which is like Truckers Final Mile, some other people. Every place on there has a link. Like if you go to one of the advocates, their different links are down at the bottom for all their social media accounts. Individual voices, you can click on those, it takes you to it. We also have a page that does, we have books, music, that's all done by truck drivers. Bunch of good stuff on there. We just opened up a new page called the Truck Stop. You go to that page right there, and let's just say you live in Dallas, Texas, okay? Click on Dallas somewhere around town, put in your name, what you like or dislike about trucking, how long you've been doing it, you know, and a little icon will pop up and you can scroll around the United States and check out other people that are on there. But our page was designed to put everything in one place to make it for people easier to find it because there's so many social media platforms out there. So, you know, browse through it, check them out. It's your decision on who you follow, what you want to do, and everything like that. It's completely free for the whole thing.
Thank you, Mike and Jane, for your hard work and sacrifice. We know it takes a toll, so thank you for your generosity, for the education, for the opportunity you give all of us to have alternative choices. Thank you for your hard work, and Jane as well.
Thank you, Ignacio.
I didn't know Jane was there. Hello, Jane.
Did you hear the little mouse over there squawking?
It's always a pleasure to hear you both.
So Robert Holick actually is making some comments over on Facebook. I'm not too sure where he's going. He said no, go to school, and then yes, yes, yes. I agree. So Robert
just
Holick is actually, I don't know what he's doing, but he's actually another affiliate of ours that's putting a magazine together for truckers. It's called Best of One, Truckers for Truckers. His website's almost done from what he's been telling me. Hopefully that's coming soon. So, stay tuned. We'll announce it when it's up and going. Like I said, he's one of our affiliates. We the Truckers is obviously one of our affiliates. Mike's always on here. He's one of our co-hosts, and this is how we invest into one another. Start working together. So
yeah.
let's get this movement going and get change done. We've already drafted up a bill to go against autonomous AI in these data centers. And we are, facilitating that out to certain members in Congress and our state representatives. Here shortly, we're going to be putting it out for everybody. So, that's how we get change.
Right. We're not opposed to working with politicians. They are few, but we aren't opposed to working with those that want to help trucking. And there are a few of them that do, but we can't rely on that as the sole solution. And that's where I believe a lot of groups in the past have went wrong, is that they just want to pose different solutions that they expect the government to solve for them.
Okay, Mike had to jump off. He said the company showed up, so I guess he had some business to take care of for their work. So, anyways, I just wanted to let everybody know that's why he had to drop out. Ignacio, Mitchell, you got anything else before we close out?
No, just a quick note. If you guys don't know about Carrier Tools, it's a free application that will give you free updates on scales, on restaurants, rest areas, weather conditions. If you have time to go and open up Carrier Tools, it's a great application that is for free from truckers to truckers. And that's about it, Chris.
All right, well, Mitchell had some complications. I think he's trying to come back in. But one other thing while we were waiting for Mitchell, he just came back in. So I totally lost train of thought. Go ahead, Mitchell.
Yeah, so just like I said, final thoughts. A lot of us have come from experience with different advocacy groups. We've had some wins, we've had some falls. We've learned a lot along the way about what can work and what's not going to work. One thing that we have noticed why every other group fails to bring people together is because they get so sold on their one solution to a problem instead of realizing the potential that not only is their solution or solutions important that they develop as a group, but we recognize here at ATC that other groups and individual drivers, driver supporters out there, they may have an idea that can be worked to a solution that we can back them up on too. A singular issue in trucking may have many different ways of solving it. And if we can attack it in many different ways to change it for the better, we can kind of throw a lot of different things at the proverbial wall and see what sticks. We have to attack it from multiple different ways and support each other when we hear sound ideas and solutions towards a specific issue. There's no always being only one right answer. Sometimes there is, but a lot of times there's more than one way to skin the proverbial cat, so to speak. So
Yeah.
we want to be able to be here to benefit each other, right? So if you've got ideas as solutions to a certain specific industry issue, don't be afraid to come in here and share. And we want to work with our alliances, like with We the Truckers and any other organizations we're affiliated with. We want to be able to put those resources in your hands too, so you can better connect with what you're going to need to further develop your solution to an issue in trucking, and how you can participate in being a part of the solution. Right?
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
also just before we go, just Robert's active right now. Robert likes stories. That's material he needs for his magazine. So check him out. Best of One. Go check out what he's all about. And if you have great story to share with him, that'd be great material for him to share for with the industry. So go check him out as well. Thank you.
Yeah, he actually has a Facebook group called Best of One Truckers for Truckers over on Facebook. So go join that group. Everybody can join. Doesn't matter where you are in the industry or not even in the industry. Just a supporter of truckers. Go join the group and collaborate with all of us. I'm in that group. Ignacio's in that group. I believe Mitchell's in the group as well. I'm pretty sure Mike and Jane are from We the Truckers are in that group. We all support one another. We all push each other. That's what this is all about. We have, like I said, we have to invest into one another and support one another. Put the pettiness aside. We can agree to disagree and work together to hit this from all sides, because that's what it's going to take. It's not just legislation. We have to start doing some protests, and we have to start doing some development of infrastructure, all of it. And that's exactly what we're doing. A lot of you haven't seen it because we haven't got it all done yet, because we're just starting it. Right now, we're having the hardware built to actually get this done.
Absolutely.
So, join us. Keep watching, keep supporting. And this 10-4 DC is our first come out to actually, bring us out and start promoting fully. So, if you're in the area of, Washington, D.C., come see us. Come talk to us. Get some, free T-shirts and free merchandise, keychains and stickers. There's no requirement for it. The flyers, no requirement. Those are just getting handed out until we run out.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we also are planning to engage at the Ontario Convention Center truck show. We're also planning to put boots on the ground at the Charupa Flying J in California to start passing out free pizza with a drink for truck drivers to show them that we appreciate that their hard work and dedication. So we're engaging as we move forward. So come out here and support us. And if you have something to say that might be an idea to better the trucking industry, feel free to do so. Everyone is welcome.
Absolutely. And we're already almost at an hour and a half. So you want to take us home, Ignacio?
Yes, sir. Yeah, Heavenly Father, today we want to thank you for waking us up, giving us the energy and the ways to share what the trucking industry is like. And for the people that are listening, bless them with work, with health, and bless their families, Father, because it's not easy being a truck driver from a distance with a family. It's not easy being alone for so many days, so many years. So continue to bless us, walk with us in the Lord Jesus Christ. We pray, Amen.
Amen. You know,
All right.
join us every Saturday here on, Facebook, LinkedIn, X, YouTube. We're on every Saturday, 4 o'clock Pacific, 5 o'clock Mountain Standard, 6 o'clock Central, and 7 o'clock Eastern. Every single Saturday. Have a good night, everyone, and be safe out there.
Good night.